President Trump, he delivered a rousing speech at CPAC 2018.
People get complacent. You just won, and now you're happy and you're complacent. Don't be complacent.
Brand new reports suggest that 3 other Broward County deputies arrived at the school during the massacre but did not enter. Instead, they hid outside behind their vehicles.
Speaking for the first time, Officer Jeff Heinrich, who was off duty at the time, rushed in.
They're my family, those kids that, teachers and staff that I've known for years.
President Trump announcing the biggest package of sanctions yet against North Korea.
If the sanctions don't work, we'll have to go phase 2. And phase 2 may be a very rough thing.
You don't mind if I go off script a little bit? Try like hell to hide that bald spot, folks. Hanging in there, right? Together, we're hanging in.
You can find us where the party's at. This is how we roll.
Yeah, this is how we roll. A lot of people from D.C. this weekend. Pete Hegseth off the couch. He'll be back tomorrow, as I understand. But Griff and I are taking over with Rachel. Wonderful to be here with you.
I love when we come in with this kind of music.
Yeah, they don't usually let the swamp come in,
yeah.
But they got all these D.C. people right now. But you're right, this is the kind of music that gets you pumped up. It's super early. You got to get excited. You got to get pumped.
That's right.
You need the energy.
We need the energy. We need the coffee. If you're at home, get your coffee, stay in bed.
Yeah, because D.C. is taking over, and we will tell you everything that you need to know.
Well, you've been at CPAC for a couple of days.
That's right.
Yes.
So I went to CPAC. Listen, guys, it was the 22nd time I've covered CPAC. First time was 1995. Newt Gingrich had just taken over as Speaker of the House for the first time in 40 years. And every year I really look forward to it because it's a very...
Were you a reporter or were you
the first year, in 1995, I was Oliver North's radio producer, Common Sense Radio with Ollie North. And we were doing Radio Row at that time. There was only about 4 or 5. Now there's hundreds of radio shows and internet broadcasts.
And at that first one, the mainstream media didn't take CPAC seriously. And, oh, wait, not much has changed.
Yeah. Well, and listen, it's a very important speech, and President Trump gave a political speech, and he did something, and we're going to talk about everything he hit, because there was something for everybody in a red meat, fire up the base speech, but he addressed the not being complacent, a challenge the Republicans have going into the midterms.
He's worried about the midterms, maybe. He wants to get people pumped up.
Let me let you hear from the president himself.
See, the word really is complacent. People get complacent. It's a natural instinct. You just won, and now you're happy and you're complacent. Don't be complacent. Okay, don't be complacent, because if they get in, they will repeal your tax cuts. They will put judges in that you wouldn't believe. They'll take away your Second Amendment, which we will never allow to happen. They'll take away your Second Amendment.
Well, it's important for him to do this because there really is an enthusiasm gap.
Yeah.
I mean, Democrats are going to go to the poll, and Republicans are, and a lot of independents.
Well, Republicans have won most of the special elections, nonetheless.
They have, and they're very happy with what's happening. But sometimes when you're happy, you're also, as he said, a little complacent. It's harder to get to the, it's a little more taxing to get to the poll.
That's exactly right. So Ronald Reagan spoke 13 times to CPAC, and he understood the need to be close to the base. Right,
yes.
To the impact that CPAC conference had in speaking to the base. This, of course, an uphill battle. And so I think President Trump really took a risk a lot of politicians won't, which is to admit, hey, we're going to lose, guys, unless you fire it up. And he's talking to the base of the base to don't get complacent.
And he has a strong hand at CPAC that a lot of people don't want to admit he has, because a couple of months ago, it wasn't a year ago, it was a couple of months ago around Christmas when mainstream media, all the Democrats, Nancy Pelosi, the crumbs, people are going to die, the tax cut's not going to help you, it's not going to trickle down, bonus after bonus after bonus. And now we see these polls just this past week saying more than a majority of the country believes the tax cut is a good thing. He has a stronger hand to bring to voters.
He does. And Judge Jeanine was in the room. She was on Hannity last night. Here's what she says about the energy in that room.
You know what's amazing is the energy in the room when the president spoke was very uplifting. It was optimistic. And it reflects the fact that probably, and as long as I can remember, we have a president who actually fulfilled the promises he made during the campaign. The president was firm, he was funny, he was personal, and he was resolute. Resolute in making sure that American confidence is up, that unemployment is down, and that the American people understand understand that they have the right to make a living. They have the right to be able to provide for their families. And they have the right to secure and safe cities. He hit all the notes. He hit it out of the park.
Judge Janine is also taking the main stage there. But let me just tell you, for the reporter sitting in the room, my absolute favorite moment was Trump being Trump in an off-the-cuff moment, noticing himself on the mirror and admiring his hair.
Wait, he's never self-deprecating, right?
No, never.
He's never.
Yeah,
never.
Listen to this.
By the way, what a nice picture that is. Look at that. I'd love to watch that guy speak. Oh, boy. Let's see. I try like hell to hide that bald spot, folks. I work harder. Doesn't look bad. Hey, we're hanging in. We're hanging in. We're hanging in there, right? Together, we're hanging in.
Yes, together with his hair hanging in. You know, it was interesting when I saw him from behind. It started to understand. It started to come together for me a little more.
How it
actually comes together in the back to cover the bald spot. It all makes sense now.
It's like one big sweep.
Yeah,
but he's actually being transparent about it now. He's like, hey.
Well, he has to, because remember he went up on the plane not long ago and it blew over.
It went viral.
And I think yes, that went viral. I think he had to address that.
Yeah, I think the American people wanted to know about it.
I wanted to know, but this particular clip really made the hair part come together.
Here's the thing: when he was talking about it, you heard the crowd just screaming. They loved it, and so I did something for us. I positioned myself right outside those doors at the end of the speech when you got the jailbreak, if you will, of all the people spilling out, and talked to people immediately after to see what they thought of it. Here's what we put together for you.
I think this is really where Trump excels, you know. I mean, people may not love the way he says everything, but he connects with the crowd. He stands back, he claps with you. He really enjoys the collective of it. He's not taking the elitist, you know, let the praise come to him. He's being part of the crowd. He's talking and saying what he believes, and he really understands that people aren't looking for someone to talk down to them and seem superior.
I was totally overwhelmed with all the promises made and all the promises kept, and to hear from the president. He can repeat it over and over again. It sounds fresh and new to me each time I hear it.
I really enjoyed it. I like what he's doing. You know, as he said in his first year, he's gotten a lot more done than most presidents have in their first year, and he's doing a lot for the people of this country, and I really appreciate that.
It showed that he is also an entertainer and a president, and why America loves him so much.
Yeah, you don't get that on a lot of other channels, and it was funny because you had people at MSNBC and elsewhere attacking the president for he's talking about his bald spot, and there's all these serious issues. And then they were saying he covered 31 different topics in an hour and 15. When Barack Obama did 31 topics, this guy's got a mastery. He can be funny. He can talk about North Korea. He covered all kinds of ground, folks. He didn't say everything that everybody wanted him to say, but he, for example, went after North Korea. We didn't get into that yet, and we'll get into the substance. But yeah, he had some fun. This is the base. It's
this is what I think they hated about it, though, Ed. They don't like when he's likable. They try so hard. You know, their whole thing of the resistance was don't normalize them. And this is the deal. This is what people love about him. Ultimately, he, more than any other politician I've ever seen, is better than Barack Obama. He understands the connection between theater and entertainment and politics. He's doing, I mean, he sounded like a guy at a bar, you know, shooting the breeze, you know, next to you with a cold beer.
I used to hear that about George W. Bush when I was covering him, and he got elected twice.
That's right. Except this is better. This is way more entertaining. You're on the edge of your seat because you just don't know what you're going to get.
So there was some fun yesterday. There was some serious talk as well. And then there was some really serious talk and some serious news breaking overnight. A disturbing update, frankly, on the deadly school shooting in Parkland, Florida. We're now learning not one, but 4 Broward County deputies reportedly waited outside the school, while the gunman opened fire, taking, of course, 17 lives. Now, this is according to sources familiar with the Coral Springs Police Department down in Florida, whose officers ran inside the building to try and stop the shooter. This is being reported by CNN. But remember, the Broward County Sheriff was on CNN at that town hall a few days ago talking about how they did all they could, folks, to save lives.
And, you know, meanwhile, there's more details coming out about the tip that the FBI failed to investigate. The Wall Street Journal reporting the anonymous woman called the agency more than a month before the shooting, saying she feared Nicholas Cruz would, quote, get into a school and just shoot the place up. I know he's going to explode. I'm not sure she could have been clearer.
No, and we're hearing more details that he brought a bird into his house and cut it open on the kitchen counter. I mean, these are such troubling, disturbing facts. Remember when the father of Meadow Pollack stood up in the White House and he said, "I'm pissed"? That's how America feels right now. The more details that come out, we are pissed off at every turn. The government failed us.
They say, see something, say something. People saw things.
They did.
They said it. The FBI didn't listen. It appears like local police and the sheriff's office didn't listen. And then maybe compounding that, nothing could be worse than the tragedy of all the lives lost.
Sure.
Right? So all this political noise and everything else.
This poor salt in the wound.
Right.
Yeah.
But the fact that the sheriff, I was down there briefly, I don't want to exaggerate, for about a day last week when it first happened to help out with our coverage. Our Miami bureau was leading the way. I happened to be down there and just talking to people. They were all at the beginning really rallying, of course, around the Sheriff Israel in Broward County, who was on top of the situation. But then in the last week, this story has turned to the point where he's out there on CNN at this town hall a couple of days ago saying, we did all we could. We need the young people to stand up and tell these politicians gun control and all of these things. And he said, we did all we could. And I'm paraphrasing what he said, rallying this crowd, thousands of people. And he didn't. He knew then he had to know the facts.
Yeah.
He did not. His department, his sheriff's department, did not do all they could.
Oh, it was very
signal.
duplicitous. He was shifting the blame because he knew the next day he was not going to be able to hide that information that you just gave. Well, Laura Ingraham had the president of the Broward Sheriff's Union on her show last night. Here's what he had to say about the Broward County School Board.
Some of the fault that I put on the Broward County School Board, for years they know that the schools have been soft targets, and they claim that they want to have better police presence inside the schools and they want tougher security, but yet they do not want to cough up the money to pay for that better security and fortify their schools and have better designs. They don't want that. And then when they are fortunate enough to have a school resource deputy on scene, an armed police presence, a lot of the liberal thinking principals that are on campus there, they don't want the police officers making arrests on campus, and they don't want the drugs to be found on campus, and they don't want the warrants to be served on campus because it looks like there's bad stats at the school.
One quick thing I want to say is I was on vacation the last few days, so I've been following the news. I haven't been following every nuance. I'm not going to sit here. I have people tweeting me saying, #fire Sheriff Israel. I know we need to be fair to Sheriff Israel. We're getting these reports. He should come out. Did his department do more that we don't know about? But my broader point here is, a lot of people didn't wait for the facts at the beginning and said, this is the NRA's fault. This is Donald Trump's fault. They had basically zero facts. Now facts are coming in, and it's less and less about gun control. It's still an important debate. It's going to happen. It's going to be talked about. But Sheriff Israel, and these facts are coming out. Folks, let's get to the bottom of the truth here, the FBI and everybody else.
That's a great point. And, you know, I would just add this. Pray for that one deputy, Scott Peterson, because he's going to live with this for the rest of his life, and he was out in the parking lot. Feel attacked. All right, CPAC's organizer, Matt Schlapp, who I spent a lot of time with, greeting President Trump ahead of his speech. Does he think that President Trump did enough to energize the base? We'll ask him next.
And if former President Obama gives a speech, but the press can't report what he said, did it actually happen?
They will take away those massive tax cuts, and they will take away your Second Amendment.